Hi, my name is Neville Douglas of Ashanti Dutch Property Investing. I come from the construction industry, so I've got a strong background in the construction industry. I've been in there for 27 years, so I do know what I'm talking about. I taught in a construction college. I taught carpentry and joinery. I then became self-employed, so I'm doing this full time, but I'm trying not to make property my full-time business because there's other things that I'd like to look into. Um, right, so I taught carpentry and joinery. I trained as a site carpenter and also a bench joiner. I did wood machining as well within my apprenticeship with a local firm that gave me a thorough understanding of the construction industry. From there, I did property refurbishment with them during my apprenticeship. I left that company. Then I worked for another company. So I was doing carpentry and joinery and property refurbishment. I then went as a subcontractor for 15 years. So I worked in the UK. I worked in France for a while with Pizza Huts and McDonald's. I then went and worked in London for a few years. I worked extensively throughout the United Kingdom, and then obviously, like I said, I got into teaching. I did my education. All my educational backgrounds is that I did my degree in education, so it's a 7407. From there, I progressed on to do my foundation degree in construction, majoring in quantity surveying. So I'll go into looking at bills of quantities, doing specifications, how you use specifications, getting them to the contractors, getting the contractors to work to your specification, and then any sort of implications that they will have to suffer if they don't work to your specification. The use of contracts, I did that as well. And as this progresses, this is like a long journey, I suppose you could say. I am going to be doing my Bachelor of Science in construction. Over the next few months, what I'm going to attempt to do is to show you some of the things that I do within my business. I do property refurbishment, also investment for investors. Obviously, I invest in property. So what I'll do is when I'm going through the various refurbishment projects that I have, I will take the camera along and film some of the things that I tend to do on a day-to-day basis. So it's looking at the refurbishment properties, looking at various aspects of those, and what I'll also do over the next the next few weeks. It's the first time for me, so you'll have to bear with me. What I shall do is look at various aspects of property. So what I'll do one particular week is I will go through, I'll make a list basically of all the things that I think are going to be of interest to you, and then what I'll do is I'll break those lists down so that you can look at those lists and decide on which part is I suppose applicable to yourselves. So for the first part, what I will do is I will look at finding property, where you would find it, typical kind of ways that I use to find properties. I won't go into too much detail because obviously there's a lot that I'll be covering. I'll look at the typical sort of streets, then I'll look at why I would go for a particular kind of street, what I look out for, and moving on from there, the methods I use to buy properties. Once I've bought the property, then we look at the refurbishment, so I look at various aspects, whether it be to do with the carpentry and joinery, the plastering, flooring, for doing the concrete floors. I've recently done a major refurb. I've got photographs for, but I haven't got the video for because I didn't have this camera at the time. So what I'll probably do is I'll talk you through the various phases of the photographs, what I find useful, how I organise myself, how I deal with the trades, what to say to the trades sometimes, in the sense that it's about developing a relationship but not too close a relationship, in the sense that you need a professional level and a professional standard. That said, sometimes I will sort of cross over the boundaries myself, to my detriment, and so I'll cover all of those things on there. So I've got quite a diverse background. I've worked with the trades as well, so I know the sort of things that they do. It's good to have a bit of a background knowledge into what they do, and this is going to be posted. So if there is, excuse me a second, my computer's restarting. If there is anything that you need to know, any questions in regards to trades, you can always send me an email, and I'll try my best to find the answers. I'm not professing to be a know-it-all. I do know a lot, and I will try and get back to you with any sort of issues or any questions that you may have as well. What I'll also try and do is to get some good names of suppliers that I think are good. I'll try and do some product reviews as well, so in the sense that, you know, looking at kitchens, bathroom suites, and also any sort of fitments and stuff like that. At the moment, I don't do furnished properties, I do unfurnished properties. I just find that it's less hassle for me that way, because obviously there's regulations that you have to adhere to if you are going to put furniture in properties. And I tend to do single lets at the moment, but I'm looking at branching into multi-lets and also HMOs as well. And also we'll discuss going into, at some later stage, into house sharing as well. So, you know, letting various rooms in a property as well. So we'll cover the full raft of, I suppose you could say, property, in the sense that we'll look at purchasing, ways of purchasing and finding properties. We'll also look at refurbishing the properties, and right to the end where we let to a tenant as well. I don't use an agency as such. All my properties tend to be refurbished to a high standard. I find this way it's quite easy to find tenants, so I do use them in the sense that they find tenants for me. I tend to manage myself, or not tend to, I manage myself, because there's very little issues once you've gone to the point where you've fully refurbished a property. There shouldn't be anything that goes wrong. If the brand new boilers and everything else, then you will find that, you know, there's 5-year warranty with those, and so everything seems to be covered in that sense. The electrical, I get excuse me, property is fully refurbished, so that's pretty good in the sense that I get the wiring is new, and I don't find there's any issues there either. So I cover the plumbing, I cover the electrical, I cover the boilers, everything's refurbished, new windows. Now you might think, well, that's a lot of money to put into a refurbishment, but there are ways of doing that, and we'll talk about ways of financing these as well. You can do, you know, joint ventures, working with somebody else who puts the money in to bring the property up to a certain standard. The bonus is, the higher the standard, the easier it is to rent out the property. If you're in a street where someone's had all the windows done and someone hasn't, I know you might not think it doesn't make a difference, but it does. You know, I'm finding now that I'm renting out my properties before they are fully refurbished. That said, you've got to have an EPC in place first, so you can go to the letting agent or estate agents. And I'll also talk about these as well with the letting agents and estate agents, which I feel are the best ones to go for. And this is only my opinion, and a lot of this stuff here is going to be based on my opinion and what I'm seeing. If there's anything where it's to do with legislation, obviously I'll go into that in a lot more detail. And I'll also refer you to the relevant websites where you can look at that information and check it out for yourself. So, you know, there's quite a wide raft of things that I'm going to be covering with you. Also, we can look at exit strategies, so whether you're going to keep, whether you're going to flip, or whether you're going to rent out for a few years and then flip, or you're going to put someone in there. It's a term known as rent to buy, or, you know, you were just going to do in between. You know, there's quite a few sort of strategies. I'm not going to go into them in a massive amount of detail, but over a period of time, you know, I will do, and those will follow on subsequent videos. So, this is just a brief introduction. I know you wouldn't think so, but it is, and we'll go from there. So, nice talking to you. I hope the information that I post you find very useful, helpful and informative, and above all, I hope it saves you some money as well.